Didier Drogba, aggravated simulation rule. While many players were skilled at winning penalties, simulation in the box, Didier Drogba became the figurehead for exaggerated injury and simulation outside the penalty box, particularly after being fouled. His dramatic, prolonged displays of pain, often for minor contact, became a source of ridicule and frustration. These collapses were tactical, forcing the referee to stop the game and often resulting in an unwarranted booking for the opponent. This constant cycle of exaggerated pain and theatrical injury forced the disciplinary bodies to address simulation as a general offense, not just one limited to winning a penalty. The FA strengthened its powers to retroactively ban players for clear instances of aggravated simulation that were clearly designed to mislead the referee and get an opponent sent off or unfairly booked, ensuring that every player's theatrical performance could be reviewed and punished. Gareth Bale, outside-the-box dive. Bale, before he was a Galactico, was an apprentice of theatrical collapse, whose pace and penchant for going down just outside the penalty area forced a closer look at defenders' feet. Gareth Bale, in his explosive years at Tottenham, mastered the art of drawing a free kick by using his terrifying speed to get ahead of the defender, then using a carefully timed clip, or the defender's trailing foot to take a dive. The resulting free kicks were often in dangerous positions, and the lack of a clear line, like the penalty box, made the referee's decision maddeningly subjective. The sheer volume of these incidents forced the league and the refereeing body, PGMO, to issue a clarification on contact outside the box. This directive stressed that minimal contact, especially from a trailing leg, should not be rewarded with a foul if the attacking player initiated the contact or used it as an excuse to fall. This subtle shift aimed to protect defenders from being penalized simply for being beaten by pace, forcing players like Bale to stay on their feet to justify the call. Seaman, keeper's charter rule. The top flight of English football had never seen such a casual, time-killing mastery, and the lawmakers at FIFA were utterly clueless about how to end it, so they reached for the rulebook. Seaman's legendary composure and those massive gloves allowed him to collect back passes with arrogant ease, just bouncing the ball and chewing up the final 10 minutes. He could grab them, dribble them, or just sit on them near his goal line while the opposition collectively lost their minds. So, the International Football Association Board (IFAB) made the back pass rule a lot stricter. They didn't want goalkeepers touching the ball with their hands if it was deliberately kicked by a teammate. That change, which arrived just as the Premier League was establishing itself, was a direct counter-attack on time-wasting tactics mastered by cool-headed keepers. The switch forced shot-stoppers to suddenly use their feet, transforming them from custodians into high-pressure playmakers. Funnily enough, even after the change, Seaman's beard remained immaculate. The league threw this massive procedural shift at him, and he just adapted, leaving a legacy defined by both clean sheets and frantic clearances. The new rule was a headache, but the man himself was pure professionalism. Petr Schmeichel, star jump rule. Schmeichel, his name is now permanently cemented alongside one of the most wonderfully bizarre psychological tactics ever employed on a football pitch. During high-stakes penalty scenarios, he mastered the star jump, a frantic, wide-limbed leap that made him appear 3 times his already enormous size. The technique was pure theater and shockingly effective, often causing the striker to aim for the corners of the net, usually resulting in a miss. The image of this giant, spread-eagled Dane sent genuine shockwaves across the continent. His imposing figure at the moment of the penalty was simply overwhelming to the shooter. A few years later, the IFAB started subtly adding clearer language to the laws to regulate goalkeeper movement, focusing on the moment of the kick. While the rule wasn't named after him, its purpose was clear: to clamp down on keepers who moved excessively before the kick was taken. It didn't matter if the movement was intentional intimidation or just the joy of geometry. If it was too distracting, the officials could now intervene. This subtle shift changed how keepers approached the spot kick, forcing them to remain mostly grounded until the ball was struck, saving the dignity of countless opposing forwards who just wanted a clean shot. Davies, leading with the arm rule. The EPL has always prided itself on physicality, but players who crossed the line into dangerous roughness eventually forced the rulemakers to act. Davies, during his relentless career as a target man, was notorious for his uncompromising, often borderline illegal style in aerial challenges. He was often criticized for leading with an extended arm or elbow to gain leverage when competing for the ball. While referees often missed these subtle contacts in the heat of the moment, the cumulative effect of these painful nudges led to genuine safety concerns. The league introduced stricter guidelines on the use of the arm in aerial challenges. The instructions made it clearer that a player who unnaturally extends their arm or elbow above the shoulder or into the face of an opponent to gain an advantage is engaging in dangerous play and should be penalized with a free kick, often accompanied by a yellow card. This subtle but firm change protected defenders and goalkeepers from the constant bombardment of elbows from players like Davies. Nick Pope, 6-second fade rule. Goalkeepers' deliberate time-wasting had evolved beyond the back pass. They were simply holding onto the ball indefinitely inside the box. Nick Pope, during his time at Burnley and later Newcastle, became a modern master of this dark art. With the opposition pressing, Pope would gather a cross or a loose ball, then stand motionless, dribbling the ball at his feet or cradling it as the seconds melted away, allowing his team to recover their shape. It was effective, but it was frustratingly slow. The opposing manager would be on the touchline yelling at the referee, counting out the seconds themselves. The IFAB's counter-move was the firm enforcement of the 6-second rule. This rule mandates that a goalkeeper is only allowed to have control of the ball in their hands for 6 seconds. If they exceed this timer, the result is an indirect free kick inside the penalty box. This clampdown directly targeted keepers like Pope, who pushed the boundaries of delaying the game. The rule's firm enforcement, even resulting in yellow cards, ensures that the game's tempo remains high and that no one player can hijack the flow simply by standing still. Robin van Persie, penalty run-up rule. The league witnessed a growing trend of penalty takers turning the spot kick into a psychological warfare routine, and Robin van Persie became one of its most sophisticated practitioners. Van Persie, known for his clinical finishing, mastered the art of the stutter or stop during his penalty run-up, freezing the goalkeeper and allowing him to easily place the ball into the opposite corner. This tactic was often successful but was considered by many to be unsporting and a violation of the spirit of the penalty duel. The deliberate stop right before the ball was struck led to confusion and frustration for keepers. The IFAB stepped in to introduce a clarification to the penalty law, stating that feinting during the run-up is permitted, but stopping completely after completing the run-up is now deemed illegal and will result in a yellow card and an indirect free kick for the defending team. This rule specifically targeted the complete pause mastered by players like Van Persie, ensuring the penalty kick remained a fluid, uninterrupted motion. Ashley Young, simulation review rule. Forget flair, focus on the fall. The influence of players who could master the theatrical collapse forced the Premier League to question the very integrity of the game. Ashley Young, particularly during his stint at Manchester United, became notorious for his ability to win penalties through the slightest, most manufactured contact. He mastered the dramatic lunge, blurring the line between legitimate contact and outright cheating. Opponents and fans felt robbed as he hit the turf with suspicious regularity. Instead of a new on-pitch rule, the FA's response was procedural and aimed directly at him and his contemporaries. They introduced the power to retroactively enforce simulation penalties. A secret panel now reviews footage after the game. If a player is clearly caught taking a dive to win a foul or a penalty, they could be banned for multiple games. It was the league essentially handing out a post-match, non-negotiable yellow card. This decision was a direct response to players whose primary skill seemed to be dramatic acting, ensuring that reputation alone could now trigger a review. Alf-Inge Haaland, targeted tackle rule. This rule change was born not out of a player's skill, but out of a single, career-defining moment of brutal revenge. The infamous tackle by Roy Keane on Alf-Inge Haaland in 2001, where Keane later admitted to intending to injure the player, forced a serious review of the serious foul play definition and retrospective discipline. While Keane was already disciplined, the sheer cynicism and admitted intent behind the tackle highlighted a dangerous blind spot in the rules regarding intent to injure. The league doubled down on the power of the disciplinary commission to levy bans far exceeding the standard 3-match suspension for a red card. The rule clarifies that tackles made with excessive force and with a clear malicious intent against an opponent's safety can be reviewed with a view to handing out bans that reflect the gravity of the attack, protecting players from targeted acts of malice, especially in highly charged derby matches. Raheem Sterling, armpit offside rule. The introduction of video assistant referee, VAR, solved some problems but immediately created others, and no player was more central to the subsequent rule clarification than Raheem Sterling. Due to his pace, Sterling was consistently put through on goal, and time and again, his goals were chalked off for the slimmest of margins, a shoulder, an armpit, or a toenail ahead of the defender. This led to maddeningly long checks that infuriated fans and showed the flaw in applying the offside rule literally to an attacker's entire body. The pressure mounted until IFAB issued a clear directive on how to interpret offside. They created a tolerance for the VAR line, effectively giving the attacker the benefit of the doubt on marginal calls. This change was a direct response to players like Sterling whose natural attacking motion and pace were being unfairly penalized by millimeter accuracy. Eric Cantona, player-fan conduct rule. Cantona was more than a player. He was a phenomenon whose volatile energy redefined player-fan boundaries forever. The infamous Kung Fu kick on a Crystal Palace fan in 1995 was not merely an isolated incident. It exposed a massive flaw in player security and conduct rules. The attack, following a red card, led to the longest non-drug-related suspension in history. The league's reaction was swift and comprehensive. They massively increased the severity of the punishment for any player who engages in physical confrontation with a spectator and tightened security protocols. The rules around the substitutes bench and player tunnels were ramped up significantly, creating a physical and legal barrier to contain future incidents. The rule, though not explicitly named after him, is a permanent monument to the moment he shattered the boundary between the pitch and the stands. Luis Suárez, aggravated misconduct rule. Beyond a standard red card offense, the career of Luis Suárez was marked by several isolated and shocking moments of aggravated misconduct, specifically the infamous on-pitch biting incidents. The FA found itself reacting to, rather than deterring, these events because standard disciplinary rules were insufficient for such extreme, non-football actions. The league realized the need for more punitive domestic powers. The result was a procedural change allowing a special independent disciplinary panel to convene immediately and issue exceptionally long bans, far exceeding the standard maximum, for incidents deemed aggravated misconduct or serious foul play that brought the game into disrepute. This rule change gave the FA the necessary legal teeth to sideline players whose actions were deemed barbaric, regardless of what international bodies might do. Dele Alli, theatrical foul rule. The tactical use of the drop to win a foul evolved into an art form, and few mastered the moment of the theatrical fall quite like Dele Alli in his prime at Tottenham. He was a master of the delayed reaction, taking contact, running a step, then falling forward with a carefully timed flail to sell the foul. His ability to draw penalties and free kicks from minimal contact was a growing frustration for defenders. The league's response was a specific officiating instruction known as the unnatural motion or theatrical fall guideline. Referees were specifically coached to ignore contact that was initiated or excessively exaggerated by the attacking player. The onus was shifted. If the player was actively searching for the foul rather than trying to score, the referee was instructed to wave play on, aiming to reward genuine attacking intent over clever deception. Wayne Rooney, off-camera dissent rule. This rule change wasn't about a skill on the pitch, but about a flaw in player temperament exposed to a massive television audience. Wayne Rooney, known for his fierce competitive spirit, was occasionally caught on camera using profanity or issuing aggressive gestures directly towards the referee or the cameras after a controversial decision. While the referee may not have been close enough to issue an immediate red card for abusive language, the visual evidence presented a massive public relations issue for the league. The league subsequently enforced a much stricter, and widely publicized, approach to disciplinary action for off-camera dissent. This included the FA becoming more proactive in reviewing match footage and levying fines or suspensions for televised abusive language or behavior towards officials or opponents, even if the referee missed it in real time. This change was a direct response to the powerful lens of television and the need to maintain an image of discipline among its star players. Riyad Mahrez, controlling the tempo rule. This issue was one of pure, cynical manipulation of the game's restart laws. Riyad Mahrez, with his exceptional close control and composure, became a prime example of a player who consistently delayed restarts. Whether standing over a dead ball, moving the ball away from a throw-in line, or taking an excessive amount of time for a corner, he used these micro-moments to kill time and frustrate opponents. The league had seen enough of this death by 1,000 cuts. The rule change was a stricter application of the existing law regarding delaying the restart of play. Referees were specifically instructed to issue immediate yellow cards for obvious attempts to delay the game, even for minor infractions like preventing a throw-in. This move was designed to keep the game flowing and punish the cumulative time-wasting tactics mastered by cool-headed technical players. Jamie Vardy, arm-hooking rule. The league saw an alarming trend of attackers initiating contact with defenders by hooking their arm around the opponent's body or leg to draw a foul, particularly when running into the penalty area. Jamie Vardy, with his electric pace and chaotic running style, was a frequent beneficiary, and sometimes victim, of this ambiguous contact. The high number of penalties being awarded for these seemingly manufactured incidents demanded clarity. The league introduced a very specific officiating guideline. If the attacking player initiates or hooks the opponent's arm or body to create the contact, it should be judged as an offensive foul, not a penalty. This was a necessary clean-up operation to ensure that penalties were awarded for defensive errors, not for clever attacking tricks designed purely to draw a whistle. Fernando Torres, goal line dance rule. This rule change was forced by a player's consistent ability to be in the right place at the right time, but with the wrong body part. In the pre-VAR era, goals scored where the ball barely crossed the line, or where a player may have touched the ball on its way and were notoriously difficult to call. Fernando Torres, known for his predatory finishing, was involved in several controversial goal line clearances or close calls. These controversial moments, where the human eye simply failed to confirm a score, added significant pressure on the league to adopt goal line technology, GLT. While the technology itself is not a player rule, the need for it was proven by the high-stakes, ambiguous goals scored by top predators like Torres, where a difference of a few centimeters decided massive points, forcing the league to adopt the technology for accuracy. Cesc Fàbregas, final whistle rule. The problem was what happened in the split second after the referee blew the whistle. Cesc Fàbregas, a player with phenomenal passing range, was notorious for immediately lashing the ball away after a whistle was blown, often into the stands or toward an opponent, out of frustration. While seemingly minor, this conduct wasted time, escalated confrontations, and delayed the game's restart. The league introduced a stricter interpretation of unsportsmanlike conduct regarding the ball's movement after the whistle. Referees were instructed to immediately issue a yellow card for any player who unnecessarily kicks or throws the ball away after the play has stopped. This rule was designed to prevent the cheap escalation of tension and ensure players respect the official's authority once a decision has been made. Heung-min Son, unnatural kick rule. The problem of the attacker using their legs to gain an advantage in the shooting motion became a major headache. Heung-min Son, known for his rapid, two-footed shooting, was often involved in situations where his follow-through or back kick created contact with the defender. The league saw an increase in players purposefully kicking their leg out during a shot to catch the defender's leg or body and win a cheap foul. The league's response was a clarification on the unnatural motion guideline, specifically targeting the leg. If a player is found to be kicking their leg out unnecessarily to create contact with a defender, it is now an offensive foul. This rule directly targeted players who were adding that extra, manufactured step into their shooting routine, ensuring defenders could contest shots fairly. Petr Čech, penalty area encroachment rule. The problem here was the goalkeeper's positioning during a penalty kick. Petr Čech, with his deep analysis of strikers, was highly effective at taking advantage of the rules regarding how far the keeper could move before the ball was struck. His ability to step off his line just a fraction too early or slightly move laterally gave him an edge. The league, wanting to protect the fairness of the penalty, tightened the rules on goalkeeper movement during a penalty kick. The introduction of VAR has made this rule perfectly enforceable, with the technology now used to confirm if the goalkeeper's foot is definitively on or behind the line at the moment the ball is struck. This high-tech enforcement ensures that the penalty is a fair duel, stopping keepers from exploiting the margin of error that existed previously. If you remember any of these rules in match play, tell us how it made you feel in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video with your fellow football loved ones and hit that bell so you don't miss the next countdown. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy this, leave a like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe cause I'll be posting frequently here.